The Western media killed my family, 21 members of my family. The Israelis pulled the trigger. The Americans made the bomb, and the media enabled them. They gave them the cover to do as many atrocities as they desire. I just can't fathom the fact that there are already 6,000 Palestinian children killed. My nieces and nephews were cut into pieces. Their body parts were everywhere, mixed with the stones and the rocks of my family's house. And we're seeing the politicians, the journalists, turning a blind eye. Some people actually commented, Hamas killed your family, blame Hamas. But we know who killed our families. We know who these F-16 belong to. We know our killers, we know our murderers, and we will never forgive them. The kind of retaliation that Israel is doing in Gaza amounts to war crimes. Bombing hospitals, bombing schools, bombing mosques, bombing churches, bombing refugee camps. And yes, you covered what happened on the 7th of October, good for you. Now cover what Israel is doing to Gaza. They don't. They don't think of us as equal human beings. Palestinians die, Israelis killed. Palestinians are terrorists, Israeli army, no. Although if you compare and contrast between the casualties of the Palestinians and the Israelis, when it comes to the civilians, the number of Palestinians would be 100 times higher. When the media cares about 40 beheaded babies, fake news, and then people get this first impression, they keep this first impression, and then the first impression in media always lasts forever. And then after a day or two, they change that, but people already got the impression, and it's very difficult to erase this impression. It happened with Shireen Abu Akleh, for example. They killed Shireen Abu Akleh, the journalist, and then they said,
Miss Abu Akleh was killed by Palestinian terrorists' fire.
And we all know it was a lie. But the Western media, right away, they took the news from the Israeli army.
Israel's prime minister called the death unfortunate and blamed it on Palestinians, claiming they were, quote, firing indiscriminately.
An official even took credit for their, quote, PR blitz, saying they had successfully influenced the Associated Press and BBC's coverage to cast doubt over who had killed Shireen.
A few months later, the Israelis said, no, it was ours. But it was too late.
On Monday, the Israeli military admitted for the first time that Shireen was likely killed by one of its soldiers. The army will not be pursuing a criminal investigation, however.
They did the same thing with the bombing of the hospital. We said, no, it's a Palestinian missile. Oh, come on, do you think we're stupid? It landed on the right place, on the right time, of the hospital that you already warned to evacuate. But the media would pick up that, and that would be the first impression. The Palestinians killed themselves, and then now they came up with another lie. A baby baked in an oven. Come on. And then a few days later they said, no, actually, this is not actually true. And the media always repeats these lies. And with these lies, they are creating the cover for Israel to commit its massacre. They're creating an atmosphere that Israel is dealing with a very, very dangerous, inhumane enemy. And this enemy is not Hamas, this enemy is all the Palestinian people, because the Palestinian people are Hamas, and we're dangerous. We should get rid of them, we should kill them all, we should displace them, send them to Sinai. And you draw all of this picture. At the same time, Israel is doing all of that on us. They are literally killing us live on the news every day, and thousands of people are being killed, thousands of children are being murdered and massacred. And we're screaming to the media, please cover that, talk about it, and they just don't.
I am sorry to say that your mass media, the Western mass media, always beside the Israelis, your baby in this area.
My story got only told because I took their pictures and uploaded them. I posted them on social media, and that's how people knew the story. If I did not talk about my family, no one would have ever knew that there was a family in Gaza, in Deir al-Balah, who were killed all at once. 21 family members, none of them was a militant. My father, my cousin, my 3 sisters, my 2 brothers, and 14 kids, my nieces and nephews, 14 children. They were sleeping in their home when Israel bombed them and killed them. My father was 75 years old. And he was born in the year of 1948, the year of the Nakba. My father was an eyewitness to every single atrocity Israel has committed against the Palestinians since its establishment. The war, 1948, 1967, the first intifada, the second intifada, collective punishment of the blockade on Gaza, 2008, the war in 2012, the war in 2014, in 2019, the war in 2021, the war in 2023 in which he was killed. Excuse me for saying war. It's not actually a war. It's an onslaught, an aggression on the Palestinian people. So my father is one of the most loved people in our city. He worked very, very, very hard to build this home, this house that we all live in, to provide for his family. And then in just 1 minute, my father and most of his children and his grandchildren and his house and everything he has worked for is gone. The problem with the media is they only talk about Palestine when there is a bloodshed. When the Palestinians are killed, they always give a context that Israel has a right to defend itself and what Israel is doing is justified.
I think they're totally justified in doing this, but they are going to unleash all hell on Gaza.
If you watch the Western media, automatically you would develop a perception that Israelis are similar to the Westerners. They just want to live in peace around this hostile area. And the Palestinians are these Muslims, these savages, those who want to kill the Jews. And they always mention the word Jews and Muslims. And I don't understand why. This is not a religious war. This is not a war between Muslims and Jews. This is between a colonizer and a colonized, between the occupied and the occupiers. But don't say it's a war between the Jews and the Muslim because it's dangerous and it creates hate among the British society themselves. And many officials in the UK, they always say that these Palestinians want to kill the Jews. We don't want to kill the Jews. We have a conflict with an Israeli regime, with the Israeli occupation. It has never been with the Jewish people. We have lived together, the Muslims and Christians and the Jews in this land for millennia. We don't have a problem with the Jews. But these people, they wanted to be a religious war. They wanted to be a conflict between the Jews and the Muslims because it will be more appealing to the West.
Our fight is your fight, and our victory is your victory. And there is no substitute for victory. We have to have the forces of civilization beat these barbarians, because otherwise this barbarism will spread and will endanger the entire world.
Let's make it a religious war. Let's spread lies that this is a war against the Jewish people, anti-Semitism, and of course anti-Semitism is vicious. I do not support it. I hate anti-Semitism, but they don't want it to be this way. They want it to be the other way around. Now, if you are pro-justice and you demonstrate in the UK and you ask peacefully for a ceasefire, you are described as a hate march. This is very dangerous and it has to stop because it stirs up bad emotions and conflicts between the British people and the American people and the free people all around the world. The problem with the media is what they exclude rather than what they include. They don't give a context to this conflict. They don't talk about the military occupation. They don't talk about the illegal settlements. They don't talk about the suffering of the Palestinians who live in Israel, who are treated as second-class citizens. They don't talk about the collective punishment of the siege, of the people who are dying literally in Gaza every day because of the lack of medicine. My mother was diagnosed with cancer in 2018. She could be cured. Survival rate of breast cancer in the UK, it would reach 87%. So in different circumstances, my mother could be cured. But unfortunately, the Israelis did not give her the permit to go to the West Bank and receive her radiotherapy. And they kept delaying and delaying until it was too late. And this is actually an answer for those who say that it all started on the 7th of October. It didn't. It has always been ongoing against the Palestinian people. In 1948, when the Zionist militias came, kicked us out of our homes and lands, there was no Hamas at all. In 1967, when Israel occupied the West Bank and Gaza and Sinai and the Golan Heights, there was no Hamas. In the West Bank right now, settler militias are killing the Palestinians and take the properties for themselves. There is no Hamas there. So the problem has never been with Hamas. The problem is that we are dealing with an Israeli regime that wants to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians from their homes and lands and want to take all the lands for themselves. The plan is to have another Nakba, to finish the job that Ben Gurion started 75 years ago. And it's very, very clear. The Israeli army is instructing the people who live in the north of the Gaza Strip to move south of the Gaza Strip, saying that Sinai is a vast, wide area. Palestinians can go and live there temporarily. They're talking about these plans out loud. And we know once we leave Gaza, we will never be able to return. It's the same thing that happened 75 years ago. But I would say that the Palestinian people are very powerful people. We're very proud people, and we will never be fooled again. I believe people everywhere in the West or in the East supports peace. Everyone hates injustice. Through the protests that we're seeing in London, in New York, and all around the world, people are no longer buying what Western media is giving them. So this is a chance for the Western media to listen to the people. After seeing that 6,000 Palestinian children were massacred in their homes while they are sleeping, please don't waste this opportunity. Be on the right side of the history.